The wild girl's discovery in the deep, untamed jungle. The sound of leaves rustling in branches, snapping echoed through the air. A figure moved swiftly through the trees, her every step silent, her eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. She was unlike any human that had ever walked the earth, an alien girl, living alone in the wild for as long as she could remember. She had no name, no family, no home. The jungle was her world. She knew every tree, every animal, and every shadow that moved under the thick canopy. Her skin, a pale shade of blue, blended perfectly with the dark foliage, and her hair was as wild as the jungle itself, tangled and long, almost like vines. Her eyes, however, were the most striking. They glowed faintly with a golden hue, a reminder of her origins from a distant, forgotten planet. She was used to the silence of the jungle, the peace that came from living without the interference of others. But today, something felt different. As she crouched low, hiding behind a thick cluster of bushes, she sensed a change in the air, a new presence. Her heart quickened, a strange, unfamiliar feeling stirring inside her chest. She had lived in this jungle for years, but never had she felt the presence of another creature so close. Slowly, cautiously, she peered through the leaves, her glowing eyes narrowing as she spotted the source of the disturbance. A human. He was standing just a few yards away, unaware of her presence. His dark hair was messy, and his clothes were torn from his journey through the jungle. He looked lost, his eyes wide and confused as he scanned the dense forest around. Him, the alien girl, had seen humans before brief encounters, from a distance. They were strange, loud, and full of emotions she couldn't understand. But this human was different. There was a calmness about him, an uncertainty that made her curious. He wasn't like the soldiers she had seen in the past, with their weapons and their loud commands. He was just a man, alone in the jungle, with no apparent purpose. She had no idea why he was here or what he was looking for, but something about him felt safe. Her breath caught in her throat as the human turned and stepped closer, unknowingly heading in her direction. Her instincts screamed at her to run, to vanish into the jungle and avoid him like all the others. But for some reason, she couldn't move. Her body felt heavy, as if her feet were rooted to the ground. It was as if the jungle itself had decided to keep her here, to watch, to wait. The human was getting closer. His eyes were still searching the trees, but now they locked onto a branch just above her. He stepped forward, his foot brushing against a twig. The alien girl's heart skipped a beat, and before she could react, he froze, staring right at her hiding spot. Their eyes met. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The human's expression shifted from confusion to awe, as if he had seen something impossible. He wasn't scared, no. There was no fear in his gaze. It was as if he had seen something so strange that his mind couldn't quite comprehend it. The alien girl, on the other hand, felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. She had never been this close to a human before, and now she wasn't sure what to do. Should she run? Should she hide? Or should she stay? As she debated, the human took a slow, tentative step forward, his hand outstretched. His voice was gentle, almost a whisper, as if he feared speaking too loudly would scare her away. "Are you real?" he asked, his words full of disbelief. The alien girl's mind raced. She had never been asked that question before. Of course, she was real. She could feel the wind on her skin, the earth beneath her feet. But to him, to a human, she must have seemed like a figment of his imagination. She didn't know how to respond. She didn't even know if she should. The human's hand remained outstretched, and for the first time in years, the alien girl felt something stir deep within her, a feeling she couldn't explain, a feeling of hope. She wasn't sure if she could trust him, but something told her she should. Slowly, She stepped out from behind the bush, her glowing eyes never leaving his. The human's breath caught, and for a brief moment, time seemed to stand still. He was speechless, his gaze fixed on her as if she were a dream. She was different, and yet there was a connection, a shared moment between two beings who had never meant to meet. The jungle was silent around them, and for the first time in a long while, the alien girl didn't feel so alone. Asterisk first contact, the jungle felt smaller now, as if the trees themselves had leaned in to witness what was happening. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and fresh leaves, but it was the tension between the alien girl and the human that filled the space. The human had stepped closer, his eyes wide with wonder and disbelief. His hand, still extended toward her, trembled slightly. He was trying to process what his mind couldn't yet grasp. The alien girl remained still, watching him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. She had never been so close to a human. Never had she allowed one to approach her this way. Her body tensed, her instincts warring with the curiosity that had been growing since their eyes first met. Her past had taught her to stay hidden, to keep away from humans, who always brought chaos and destruction. But this one was different. He didn't look at her like a threat. He didn't look at her like an enemy. A soft breeze blew through the trees, and the alien girl felt the strange, comforting sensation of the air brushing against her skin. She had never realized how much she had missed the touch of the outside world. In the jungle, the wind was her only friend. But now, there was something else, something she couldn't quite explain. The presence of the human seemed to fill the space around her, like a strange warmth that contrasted the coldness of the jungle. The human took another step forward, and the alien girl flinched, almost instinctively. He stopped immediately, his expression apologetic. "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you," he said softly, his voice breaking the silence. It was gentle, comforting in a way she hadn't expected. His tone was not that of a hunter or a soldier, but of someone who had seen the world and sought understanding rather than control. Her glowing eyes flickered, and her lips parted, unsure if she could speak. It wasn't that she didn't know. The language she had learned many languages in her time, but speaking to a human, face to face, felt different. It felt personal. It felt dangerous. He seemed to sense her hesitation, and to her surprise, he didn't press further. Instead, he lowered his hand slowly, as if to show her he meant no harm. There was something about his presence that made her feel safe. She had grown up surrounded by danger, by beings who would harm her at a moment's notice. The jungle had been her sanctuary, and it had taught her to trust no one. But here now, in this strange encounter, she felt an unfamiliar pull and urge to know more, to reach out and connect. "You don't have to speak," he said, as though reading her mind. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay." For a moment, they stood in silence, the noise of the jungle filling the space between them. Birds cawed in the distance, and the rustling of leaves became louder, but neither of them moved. The human was waiting, as if giving her the time she needed to process, to understand what was happening between them. The alien girl, too, waited, her mind racing. Why did this human care? Why did he feel compelled to approach her, to offer her comfort when all her life others had only seen her as a creature to be feared? Her gaze flickered downward, noticing for the first time the simple cloths he wore, torn from the journey through the jungle. She had never seen anything like them, but there was a certain softness about him, an ordinary humanity that made her realize how different their worlds were. He was from a place she knew nothing about, yet here he was, standing in the middle of her world, offering her something no one else had. Kindness. Slowly, she took a step forward, the golden hue of her eyes still fixated on him. She reached out a hand, her fingers trembling slightly, not sure what to do. She had never touched a human before. She didn't know if she could, if she even should. The human's eyes brightened, and without a moment's hesitation, he extended his hand to meet hers. When their fingers touched, the sensation was electric. Neither of them had expected it. The alien girl felt a shock of warmth flood her chest, as if something had stirred deep inside her, something that had been dormant for a long time. Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't pull away. It wasn't pain or fear. It was connection. For the first time in years, she felt something other than loneliness. A warmth that had nothing to do with the jungle's heat. The human smiled. A small, genuine smile, but it was enough. "I don't know what's happening here," he said quietly, "but I think we're supposed to help each other." The words were simple, but they carried weight. She understood them in a way that no language could express. They weren't just words, they were an invitation. An invitation to something she had longed for, even if she didn't fully understand it yet. And for the first time, the alien girl felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crack. Maybe this human was more than just a stranger. Maybe he was the key to a world she had never imagined. Asterisk. The unexpected invitation. The alien girl stood there, her fingers still lightly touching the human's hand. The jungle around them seemed to fade into a distant murmur as the silence between them grew deeper, more meaningful. Her heart, which had been so accustomed to the cold and isolation, now thudded loudly in her chest. It was as if the universe itself had paused to watch the meeting of these two unlikely beings. The human, still holding her hand, spoke again, his voice softer this time. "I know you're probably not used to any of this." His eyes shifted, nervously, unsure how to continue. "But I think I can help you, if you want." His words hung in the air, full of uncertainty, yet there was a spark of something real in them, a hope that mirrored what was quietly blooming in the alien girl's chest. She had never imagined anyone offering her help. She was the one who survived alone, the one who had learned the hard way that kindness was a rarity and people only took what they could. Yet here this human was, offering not only his help but his presence, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. He took a slow step back, his gaze not leaving hers, waiting for her to decide. She could feel the pull, the invitation to something bigger than the jungle. A world outside, one that she had only heard whispers of the world humans lived in. A world of cities, of machines, of things she could not even imagine. Her gaze shifted to the trees, to the deep shadows of the jungle that had been her sanctuary for so long. She could return to the wild, to the safety she had known. The jungle had always been predictable, always in control. It was her world. But as she looked back at the human, she felt a strange unease creep up her spine, not from fear, but from the thought of remaining alone. "You can't stay here forever," the human continued, his voice now gentle, as if understanding the turmoil inside her. "I know the jungle's all you've known, but there's a world out there, a world you deserve to see." The alien girl took a hesitant breath. Could she trust him? Could she leave behind everything she had known? For a fleeting moment, the idea of stepping into his world, his unknown, strange world, terrified her. But in the back of her mind, something deep and almost forgotten stirred. A longing, a yearning for something more than the jungle's shadows. The human reached into his bag, his movements slow and deliberate, as if not wanting to startle her. From it, he pulled a small, folded piece of cloth. "I know it's not much," he said, with a soft laugh, "but it's something. Maybe you'll like it." He held it out to her, a simple garment, something she had never worn before. She looked at it for a moment, confused. It was strange, like nothing she had ever seen. The fabric was soft to the touch, unlike the roughness of the jungle's leaves or her own makeshift clothing. But the gesture willingness to offer her something as simple as a piece of cloth spoke volumes. In his eyes, she could see that. He wasn't just trying to take care of her. He was trying to show her something more, a chance, a future beyond what she had always known. She took the cloth from his hands, feeling its unfamiliar texture against her skin. The human smiled again, his expression filled with hope. "You can wear it when we leave. If you want to come with me, I'll show you a place where you won't have to hide, where you can learn everything you want to learn. See what you want to see?" The alien girl hesitated, looking down at the cloth in her hands. It wasn't just about the cloth, though it was about what it represented. A life she had never thought possible. A life beyond survival. A life where she wouldn't be alone. The human seemed to sense her uncertainty and took a small step back, giving her space to think. "I won't pressure you, but if you change your mind, I'll be here. I won't leave you alone." Her glowing eyes flickered. The weight of her decision hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. Could she truly step into this new world, away from everything she had ever known? Her mind screamed to stay, to retreat into the shadows, to remain the untouchable creature of the jungle. But something in her heart, a soft, gentle pull, whispered that maybe it was time for something more. With one final glance at the jungle, she turned back toward the human. Her fingers clenched around the cloth, and a small, quiet voice inside her said yes. Not in words, but in a movement of her body, in the way she took a step toward him. She was ready to leave the shadows behind. The human smiled, a look of quiet relief washing over his face. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She didn't speak, but the glow in her eyes spoke louder than any words could. Together, they turned away from the jungle and began walking toward the unknown. The world outside awaited, full of possibilities. Neither of them could yet understand. But for the first time in her life, the alien girl didn't feel afraid. She didn't feel alone that asterisk shopping trip. The jungle quickly faded behind them, its dense canopy shrinking with every step they took. The alien girl walked beside the human, her gaze flickering nervously between the unfamiliar path ahead and the world she was leaving behind. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, a world she had never dreamed of, a world made of metal, glass, and strange noises that felt almost too loud after the quiet solitude of the jungle. The human stride was calm, steady, as if this was just another ordinary journey for him. To him, this was nothing new, but to her, everything was foreign. The air felt thinner, less wild, as if the very atmosphere had been tamed. "You'll get used to it," the human said with a comforting smile. His voice was reassuring, but the alien girl could sense the nervousness beneath it, the subtle tremor in his tone that betrayed how unsure he really was. He had no idea what this would mean for her, for them. They reached a large clearing, where a massive structure stood in the distance. The alien girl's heart skipped a beat. It was nothing like the jungle. There were no trees, no vines to climb, no animals to speak of. Instead, there were towering buildings, their surfaces glistening in the sunlight, and strange vehicles speeding along the wide roads. People hurried about, each person seeming to have their own purpose, their own mission, as if they were part of something much larger than themselves. The human paused, turning to face her. "This is a mall," he said, his voice filled with wonder as he watched her take in the new world. "It's where people go to buy things, clothes, food, things for their homes." He said it with such simplicity, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. But to her, it was like hearing about a magical land she had only read about in stories so distant, so impossible. The alien girl's eyes scanned the place, wide with disbelief. The walls of the mall were covered in brightly lit advertisements, flashing colors that were nearly overwhelming to her. The sounds of laughter, chattering, and the clicking of shoes on polished floors filled the air. The overwhelming sensory overload made her stomach churn with unease, but at the same time, something inside her couldn't help but feel curious. "Are you sure about this?" the human asked gently, noticing her hesitation. "I can take you back to the jungle if it's too much, but if you're ready, we can try this together." The alien girl glanced up at him, her glowing eyes locking onto his, and for a moment, everything else seemed to disappear. She didn't know what it was about him, this human who had never known her before, but he made her feel like maybe, just maybe, she could face this new world without falling apart. Taking a deep breath, she nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "I'm ready." They stepped into the mall, and the chaos of noise and movement immediately surrounded them. People rushed past, some nodding to the human with friendly greetings, while others stared at the alien girl with wide eyes, their gazes filled with confusion or awe. She could feel their eyes on her, their judgment lingering in the air like an invisible cloud. Her skin tingled with the uncomfortable sensation of being watched, but she held her ground. The human noticed her unease and smiled reassuringly. "Ignore them," he whispered. "They're just curious, not dangerous." But the alien girl wasn't sure if she believed him. The stares felt heavy, suffocating. Her instincts screamed to run, to hide, but she had already taken the first step into this new world. There was no going back now. As they wandered deeper into the mall, the human led her to a store filled with clothes, brightly colored fabrics, shiny shoes, and strange accessories she didn't understand. The shelves were overflowing with things. So many things. She couldn't even begin to comprehend the vastness of it all. The human picked up a simple shirt from one of the shelves, holding it out to her. "Here," he said with a grin. "I thought this might look good on you." The fabric was soft in her hands, a deep blue that almost mirrored the color of the sky in the jungle just before dusk. She stared at it, uncertain. She had never worn anything like it before, never felt anything so delicate. But as she held it up against her chest, she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflective glass beside her. Her wild hair, her glowing skin, she barely recognized the person staring back. She was no longer the fierce, untamed creature of the jungle. Here, in this strange new world, she was something else, something different. The human was watching her carefully, waiting for her response. "Do you want to try it on?" he asked, a touch of uncertainty in his voice. She nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. Slowly, she stepped into a small changing room, the soft fabric of the shirt sliding over her skin. It felt strange, but somehow comforting. When she stepped out, the human's eyes lit up with surprise and admiration. "You look amazing," he said, his voice full of genuine awe. She blushed slightly, an unfamiliar warmth rising in her chest. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. Her existence had always been about survival, about blending into the jungle, staying hidden from the world. But now, for the first time, she felt something else, something new. The human smiled, a sense of pride in his eyes. "There's more to this world than just survival. You can have a life, a real life, if you want. And I'll be here to show you how." The alien girl looked at him, her eyes softening. Maybe this human was right. Maybe there was more out there than the jungle. And maybe, just maybe, she could find a place in it. As they walked out of the store together, the alien girl felt a strange, blossoming sense of hope. For the first time, she didn't feel lost. She didn't feel alone. She felt like she was on the brink of discovering something that could change everything. The price of trust. As the alien girl walked beside the human, the mall's lights flickered above them, casting long shadows on the polished floors. The noise of bustling shoppers, the hum of machines, and the buzz of conversations created a rhythm that was unfamiliar to her. She was starting to feel the weight of it all, the sheer magnitude of the world that was now unfolding before her. Everything here moved at a speed she had never known. And yet, it was not the noise that made her heart race. It was the strange sense of belonging she was starting to feel. The human, sensing her unease, slowed his pace. "We don't have to go any further," he said softly. "I can take you back to where it feels safer. You've had enough for today." She looked at him, her glowing eyes searching his face. His offer was genuine, but deep down, she knew there was more to explore, more to understand. There was a pull in her chest, a desire to see more, to know more. Yet the question she hadn't dared ask hovered in the back of her mind. Why was he doing this? Why was he helping her? The human had no idea who she was, where she came from, or what her life had been like. He knew nothing of her past, of the war that had torn her people apart, or the loneliness she had carried for years. She had never allowed herself to trust anyone before. Could she trust him? Could she trust anyone at all? They passed a row of glass windows, and through them, the alien girl caught a glimpse of something that made her stop in her tracks. She squinted, her breath catching in her throat. On the other side of the window, two figures were walking past, and one of them was unmistakably familiar. She recognized the insignia on their jackets, the same symbol that had haunted her nightmares for as long as she could remember the symbol, of the very people who had abandoned her, who had left her to survive alone. The human noticed her sudden stillness. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice filled with concern, got her fingers clenched around the fabric of the shirt she had just purchased. Her eyes never left the figures outside, who had now stopped near the entrance, scanning the crowd. Her heart raced. The last time she had seen these soldiers, they were chasing her, hunting her, and she had barely escaped. The human had no idea what this symbol meant, but she knew all too well. They were the ones who had destroyed her world. I know them," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "They're from my past." The human followed her gaze and frowned, not fully understanding the gravity of the situation. "Who are they?" he asked. The alien girl took a slow, shaky breath. "They're not from here. They're from my world, and they're dangerous." The human's face shifted from confusion to alarm. "What do they want with you?" The alien girl's heart sank. She couldn't tell him the full truth, not yet. She didn't want to burden him with her past, with the horrors that still haunted her. But the truth was inescapable. If they were here, if they had found her, there was no way she could remain hidden for long. They wouldn't just stop at her. They would go after anyone who helped her, anyone who crossed their path, without another word. She grabbed the human's arm, pulling him away from the window. "We have to leave," she said urgently, her voice shaking. "Now." The human didn't hesitate. He followed her, sensing the danger, though he didn't fully understand it. They hurried through the mall, trying to blend in with the crowd, but every step felt like it was echoing in her chest. The soldiers were still out there, waiting. She could feel their presence like a shadow, looming just beyond her reach. As they reached the exit, the alien girl's mind raced. What would they do if they caught up to her? What would they do to the human? Her instincts screamed at her to protect him, to keep him safe, but how could she do that when she couldn't even protect herself? When they stepped outside, the cool air hit her like a wall of reality. They were exposed. The streets were busy, and they were no longer hidden in the noise and chaos of the mall. The alien girl's eyes darted from side to side, scanning for any sign of the soldiers. She could almost hear their footsteps behind her, closing in with every passing second. The human pulled her into an alley, out of sight from the crowds, and she pressed her back against the cool brick wall. Her heart was pounding in her ears, and her breath came in shallow gasps. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She had brought him into this, into a danger he had no understanding of. He had trusted her, and now it was her turn to protect him. But how? Talk to me, the human said gently, his hand resting on her shoulder. What's going on? Who are they? The alien girl closed her eyes, trying to steady her breath. She couldn't lie to him, not after everything they had shared. They are the ones who left me here, she said, her voice a quiet tremor. They abandoned me, thinking I'd die in this place. But I survived, and now they want to finish what they started. The human's eyes hardened with determination. We won't let them hurt you, he said firmly. We'll get away. I'll protect you. The alien girl looked at him, her gaze softening. He didn't know what he was saying. He didn't know the depth of the danger they were in. But in that moment, the sincerity in his voice, the trust he had placed in her, filled her with something she had never known before. It wasn't just survival that kept her going. It was something more. It was this bond, this fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, they could escape the shadows of her past together. Asterisk the unexpected escape. The darkened streets stretched out before them like a maze, winding and narrow, lined with towering buildings that seemed to block out the sky. The alien girl's senses were on high alert, her glowing eyes flicking from side to side, catching every movement in the shadows. She could feel the weight of the danger pressing in, the soldiers' footsteps echoing in her mind, even though she couldn't hear them yet. They were still out there, waiting, tracking her. The human didn't understand, but she could sense their presence. They were closing in. The human, though clearly tense, walked beside her without hesitation, his hand gripping hers in a firm, reassuring way. She could feel the warmth of his hand through the fabric of her new clothes, and for a fleeting moment, she allowed herself to feel something she hadn't dared to feel before safety. It was a fragile feeling, but it was there, pulsing between them. She hadn't realized how much she craved that warmth, that sense of connection, until now. We need to move faster, the alien girl whispered urgently, her voice tight with fear. We can't let them catch us. The human didn't argue. His eyes searched the streets ahead, trying to anticipate their next move. He could sense her panic now, her grip on his hand tightening with every step they took. He didn't know what kind of danger they were truly in, but the intensity of her fear was enough to make him take the lead, to push forward despite the uncertainty. Follow me, he said, his voice low but steady. I know a place where we can hide. Without waiting for her response, he pulled her into a side street, hidden from the main road, and they quickly ducked into an old building, the door creaking as it shut behind them. Inside, the air was damp and heavy with the smell of old wood and dust. The human's eyes scanned the room, looking for a place to hide. It wasn't much a forgotten warehouse, with crates stacked high along the walls, covered in cobwebs and neglect. But it would do for now. The alien girl's pulse was racing, the adrenaline making her heart beat faster than it should. She could still hear the faint echoes of footsteps in her mind. They weren't far behind. We won't be safe here for long, she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. They'll find us. The human nodded, his expression serious. I know, but we need to rest. Just for a moment. You need to calm down. Her glowing eyes met his, and in that instant, she saw something in him she hadn't fully realized before, a quiet determination. He wasn't just trying to protect her because it was the right thing to do. He was doing it because, for some reason, he truly cared. And for the first time since they met, the alien girl allowed herself to believe it. Thank you, she said softly, her voice cracking just a little, for helping me, for trusting me. The human gave her a small, reassuring smile, but it was laced with exhaustion. We're in this together now. Whatever happens, we get through it. Together. She nodded, her mind still spinning. The weight of their situation pressed down on her, but there was a flicker of something else, something that felt almost like hope. They had escaped the soldiers for now. But how long could they keep running? The question haunted her, gnawing at the edges of her thoughts. Suddenly, the sound of a faint noise outside snapped her back to reality, a low hum, distant but unmistakable. The alien girl froze, her senses sharpening once again. She recognized that sound. It wasn't just the hum of machinery. It was the sound of a hovercraft, its engines buzzing with power. "They're here," she whispered urgently, her voice full of dread. "We don't have much time." Without a word, the human grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the back of the building. They had to find a way out before the soldiers caught up to them. The alien girl's heart thudded in her chest as they moved through the dim, dusty aisles, trying to stay as quiet as possible. Every second felt like an eternity. They reached a door at the back of the warehouse, a rusted metal door that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. The human reached for the handle, but the door wouldn't budge. He tugged harder, frustration creeping into his voice. It stuck. The alien girl glanced over her shoulder, the faint sound of the hovercraft growing louder, closer. She could feel the soldier's presence, like a shadow creeping closer with each passing moment. Without thinking, she stepped forward and placed her hand on the door. Her fingers traced the rusted edges, feeling the vibrations through the metal. Then, without hesitation, she pressed her palm firmly against it. There was a sharp hiss of energy, and the door shuddered as if it were responding to her touch. The human stared at her, wide-eyed. "How did you?" But before he could finish, the door gave way with a screech of metal, sliding open just enough for them to slip through. They were in a narrow alley, hidden from view, but they had no time to celebrate their small victory. They kept running, weaving through the maze of back streets, moving faster now. The hovercraft was close, too close. "We need a place to hide," the human said, his voice strained as he looked around, his mind racing. "Do you know somewhere?" The alien girl didn't hesitate. "Follow me," she said, her voice steady now, the fear replaced with a fierce determination. She had learned the streets of this city in just a few short hours. Now she would use that knowledge to keep them both safe. They turned another corner, and she led them down an alley that twisted and narrowed, the shadows growing darker. She could feel the hovercraft above them, the hum of its engines pressing down on her like a weight. Then ahead, she saw an abandoned building, its windows shattered and its door half open. She pulled the human inside, and they crouched. Low, hiding in the shadow's dot as they waited in the darkness, the alien girl's heart pounded in her chest. They were safe for now, but how long could they stay hidden? The soldiers were relentless, and they would never stop looking for her. But there was something else, something she hadn't expected to feel. She wasn't afraid anymore. With the human by her side, she felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a way to survive this. To fight back. Asterisk.